Someone's. Oh, we're live.
We're live. Okay.
Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Kitchen 365 Masterclass. My name's Megan, and today I am joined by Hayden Ellis, our resident marketing expert. Thanks for joining me, Hayden.
Of course, always happy to join.
Let's just jump right in. So to help you all dominate the market in 2026, we've broken today's sessions into 4 pillars: local SEO visibility, smart automation, high ROI ad strategies, and the future of AI in the kitchen industry. So let's get started with some questions about search engine optimization and automation. So Hayden, what is the number one mistake cabinet businesses make with their local search presence?
Good question. I think, the biggest mistake that I see from new clients and even existing clients we've had for a while is the sort of set it and forget it mentality. Because yes, when you're looking at organic growth or optimizing for, appearing or being most visible from an organic perspective, it's easy to think that you're just setting up all these things and then once it's done, you're good to go. To a certain extent, right, there is this sort of long-term strategy at play, but that doesn't mean that it's something that doesn't need ongoing optimizations, ongoing work, right? So I think that's probably the biggest struggle I see is kind of breaking that mentality, because at the end of the day, it's like any other marketing channel. You need to continue to look at it, mold it, make sure it's firing on all cylinders, because at the end of the day, these sorts of kind of rules of SEO or now like optimizing for AI, they change. And so we need to change along with them.
And I assume that also extends itself to the business profile and setting that up and making sure that things are accurate along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Right. The biggest ongoing piece with those business profiles, one, you want to make sure that any business related information that changes, yes, you want that updated. But I think more importantly, when it comes to optimizing those profiles, the biggest sort of ongoing step that you need to take is just really staying on top of generating new reviews. That's by and large the thing that's going to make the most impact when it comes to optimizing any of those profiles, whether we're talking about your Google My Businesses of the world or some other listing site like a G2 for tech companies, for example, or an Angie's List or something along those lines. Right. You want to make sure that you're staying on top of those reviews, because the more frequent testimonials you get, the more that you're replying to those reviews, the better that's going to look for you.
Right. And then beyond the business profile, how does hyper local content impact ranking compared to broad keywords for your city?
Yeah. So obviously when we're looking at showrooms, it is much more hyper local, because generally speaking, we're talking about maybe a 50-mile radius at max that people are going to actually drive to come into this showroom. If that's kind of your business model, right, is if you want them to come in, if you want them to peruse cabinets in store or something along those lines, you don't want to cast that net too wide. So we really prioritize location when it comes to not only targeting for advertising, but also when it comes to your content. So yes, you want to include location specific information on your business profile, for example, or in your blog content, you want to have location specific landing pages. That helps a lot of the time. So especially when we're talking about our retailers of the world, whether the priority is having them come in store or not, generally speaking, you're going to get the most bang for your buck at a hyper local level. So just really consider that when it comes to writing your content, because it does make a big difference.
Yeah, makes sense. So now moving on to automation, how can small businesses use it to nurture leads without losing that personal human touch?
Yeah, that's a concern that I think a lot of people have, a lot of business owners, a lot of showroom owners, is that if you do automate, if you have a ton of automated nurturing through email or text, that you somehow lose that mom and pop feel, or the feel of working with a human. But that's not always necessarily the case. For one, I think it's good to obviously add like all your personalization tokens and whatnot. That's like the easiest thing. If you're not doing that yet, that's like number one, like lowest hanging fruit that you should implement. And when I say personalization tokens, I just mean like insert first name here, insert business name here, so on and so forth, or whatever, like insert address, blah, 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 all the project details. But beyond that, I think weaving in a personal touch with all the automated stuff also makes a big impact. So a lot of the time, what we've found that works best is, yes, we've got our automated emails going. Yes, we've got our automated texts going, but weaving in like actual personal phone calls from someone tends to help as well. And I think now with the advent of like AI callers and things like that, it's going to be kind of a fine line, I think, when you're talking about when you want to implement those sorts of tools and when you don't. I think, it's only going to get better and better. So at a certain point, maybe it's all automation all the time, right? But I think especially for a lot of our local customers for now, it's still a priority to like weave in that personal touch of like picking up the phone and trying to call someone when you want to help with like a design consultation or something.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to talk to a real life human.
Yeah, humans working with humans, I think is a good thing still.
And what is one specific trigger event in a lead's journey where automation typically fails and requires a human designer to step in? Like I know we kind of touched about it, but what are some specific trigger events that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, I think again, like phone calls, at least as of now, in terms of a task that is to be automated, in terms of for lead nurturing is the big one that's missing right now. But if you're talking about sort of where in the journey, if you're talking about your average showroom, I think generally once you get to like design consultation and beyond, that's when you want to stop doing as much automated lead nurturing. Now, that's not to say you can't have like automated progress update emails or something like that. If you're using like a project management tool or something along those lines for your designers, super easy to set up. Like, okay, designers mark the design as complete, or like that they've started the design, and an automated email goes out saying, hey, so-and-so, you're at X stage in the process. This is what's happening right now, and this is what you should probably expect next. That's super easy to set up, and it can be really generalized and doesn't take that much work. But the like consultation itself obviously is going to be something where you do need that personal touch. You do need to set up a phone call and do like the demo thing or virtual thing, whatever.
Yeah, and any like specific changes and stuff after that, obviously.
Right. Yeah. When you're implementing feedback, you can't necessarily have a robot do that. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now let's talk about tracking.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 3 non-negotiable KPIs a business owner should track to measure marketing success specifically?
Good question. I think for most showroom owners, the things that are most vital for them, at least, are going to be your lead volume, right? So looking at not only the number of leads, but like, sort of the qualification of those leads, how many leads are progressing from leads to opportunities to design consultations to close deals. That's one. I would just lump that all in as like leads. The second thing is cost per lead. So yes, you want to be looking at overarching cost if you've set some sort of budget, but I think that's not necessarily as important as your cost per lead, right? Because the big distinction there is you have to understand, or rather it helps you understand how much it costs you to get new business on average. And 2, is that cost more or less than what the value of that customer is? So for example, if I'm spending, $100 to get a lead that closes, and that lead is only going to be worth $50, then I'm in the hole. Right. So important thing to consider there. And then after that, there are a couple ones that I could call out. I guess the third most crucial or vital would probably be, I guess, just close deals, right? So if you want to break it down in terms of leads versus closes, so on and so forth, I think any of those metrics as they relate to that sort of qualification process are generally what I find to be most crucial. Because you can look at, like the conversion rate between each sort of like stage, and best understand where you're sort of losing people, and maybe like make some changes to your process accordingly.
Right. And we know all three of those are crucial, but for a business owner who might have a limited amount of time, which one of those KPIs is the leading indicator of a revenue slump 90 days out?
Good question. I mean, I guess the easiest answer there is lead volume, right? If you're not generating as many leads as you're used to, then you're probably not going to close as many leads or close as many deals, right? So, I think generally speaking, when it comes to this business, we have a pretty good idea of like what the seasonal curve kind of looks like. There are going to be times in the year where you do generate more leads on average per month than you are maybe like in the back half of the year when things get colder, when people aren't as worried about these projects because it's like the holidays or something like that. So yes, lead volume is probably the easiest indicator to say, hey, we're probably going to see a slump. Another thing to consider is overarching cost, like what your spend is. Because if you haven't made any significant changes to, especially like a paid campaign, and all of a sudden your spend dips drastically, if you're not spending as much, you're probably not generating as much. So it's probably going to be something to look into. Now, I'm not saying you want to spend just for spending's sake, but if you notice that all of a sudden there's a dip in spend and you haven't made any crazy changes, that's probably should ring some alarm bells.
Yeah, I think that's really important to keep in mind, especially as we start Q1.
Yeah. I mean, like going back to the seasonality of it all, this is a really busy part of the year, obviously. A lot of our clients end of last year were super hyper focused on, all right, what are the things that we're going to be doing in, Q1 or going into Q1 to kind of set ourselves up for success. So, if you're seeing a slump right now and you're in this industry, I hate to be their bearer of bad news. That's probably not a good sign. So if that's the case, definitely, take the time to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. And it's not too late. We're happy to knock it out of the park for you.
We're still really early into 2026.
Most definitely. 7 days in, I think we're going to be okay.
All right, now let's talk about accelerating growth by putting brands in front of the right high-value audience. So when targeting high-quality leads, how do you adjust your ad copy to repel like tire kickers or those who only want like a cheap big box store price?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think for one, focusing on user experience and customer journey, like that's really important. What most people that work with like a Home Depot versus one of these, smaller like local showrooms will tell you is that the Home Depots of the world aren't going to care as much, frankly, about like about your business to them, because it's so large and they're so busy. Like there's going to be another customer that fills your seat if you're not there. So number one thing is that customer experience and really leaning into that. Outside of that, we've just found that when you sit down and look at your business, there are going to be things that make you stand apart from other local showrooms, as well as those big box stores. So just sit down with yourself and think about what those unique selling propositions are, whether it's lower cost, whether it's free shipping, whether it's vast product selection or super focused product selection. In some cases, that can be a unique selling proposition. So just think about what those things about your business are that are different, and are those differences something that are appealing to your customer base. If that's the case, then boom, that's a great thing that you can use in your marketing.
Yeah, makes sense. Just make yourself unique. And I think what you said about the customer experience is the big thing, because if you have an issue, let's say with Home Depot, with your order, it's not going to be as nice of an experience as if you're working with like a local showroom.
100%.
Make it work for you.
Yeah, we've all had those experiences where you're working with a big company, whether it's for this sort of project or something totally different, and you're on the phone with customer service. They throw you on hold forever. Like the Patricia answers. Sorry if there's anyone named Patricia, but Patricia answers the phone and she's like, "What do you want? I don't care." Click, click, clack. You're generally not going to get that poor of an experience with these local showrooms. They care about your business. They want you to return if you do ever need like another remodel project done or something along those lines, and they're much more willing to like hop on the phone, make it right, replace damaged product or whatever that is.
Yeah. Now let's talk about ad platforms. Between Google and Meta ads, the two big ones today, what is currently driving a better ROI for kitchen professionals specifically from your experience?
It's a good question. There's a ton of ad channels out there. Like you said, Google and Meta are two big ones that a lot of agencies focus on that we put some emphasis on for sure. I think there are different use cases for sure. Google is a much more like active intent platform. It's people that are actively searching for the products or services that you offer versus your Meta ads, like, your Facebook and Instagram, where it's much more passive. We're trying to get in front of them, stop them, take time out of their day and get them to fill something out. Now, that said, I think, again, there are use cases for both. But recently for like retail and showrooms specifically, I definitely think we've found that you get the most bang for your buck out of Meta ads. One, it's cheaper generally to advertise on that channel. And two, you generally are going to see a lot more volume. Now, the thing that I always tell people, because again, it is a passive ad channel, is that it's probably going to take a little bit more work and time to close those deals because they are kind of more top of funnel.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going into it, have to make sure you're willing to put in the time to pick up the phone and call those people. And yes, again, like we sort of alluded to before, we'll have those automated layers of follow-up through email and text, but you're going to get the most success by calling these folks. So, bear that in mind when you go into advertising. If you want to start spending ad dollars on a channel, yes, I think Meta is probably going to be the best for you, but it's going to take some time out of your day.
Right. So, like, for example, if a showroom has like a great portfolio but a slow website, would you say Meta would be a more forgiving ROI, more forgiving platform?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good use case for Meta ads because one, yes, obviously super visual platform. You want to use all the imagery from your portfolio that you have, add video if you have any from any like finalized projects and things along those lines. But also the nice thing about Meta is you're not necessarily having to drive them to your site. You can set up lead forms in the platform. So whether they're on Facebook or Instagram, they can fill out the form directly there. And then, you can begin the sales cycle from there. So if you're a little worried about your site, one, that's probably a problem and you should talk to somebody about getting that fixed. But maybe while you're working on that, definitely you can implement these lead forms and it's a good alternative. And actually we found that if you are going to advertise on Facebook or Instagram, those usually are going to perform better and you're going to get more volume.
Yeah, makes sense. Speaking of video, what specific types of video content are converting best for cabinet businesses?
Good question. Yeah. Like I said, finalized projects always are great. Being able to kind of do a walkthrough and showcase your product in a kitchen is always going to be kind of the most stellar thing. But that's not to say that it has to be that. We've seen a ton of like walkthroughs of showrooms doing well, or like kind of more in-depth explainer videos about products and different styles, different trends, like what helping people determine what they think is their aesthetic and what's going to fit best in their kitchen and those sorts of things. Making it as educational as possible, I think, is one thing to make note of. Because yes, obviously people want to see awesome kitchens and they want their kitchen to look awesome. But I think it's important to look at, before you get to that awesome kitchen, I don't know anything, before I got into this business, I didn't know anything about cabinets, right? And if I were going to remodel my kitchen at the time, I would have been totally lost. I would have been like, someone please help me. I mean? Like, what's the aesthetic I'm going for? I have no idea. I'm just a country boy from Georgia. So, I think, now I'm obviously in the business, but having, just going back to the point of this ramble, having those educational assets that help people figure out what their aesthetic is super, super crucial. And we've seen it work really well for a lot of our clients.
Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on this, but do you think these videos should be like highly produced, or do raw, like behind the scenes videos build more trust and perform better?
Yeah, another really good question. I guess part of my answer is it sort of depends on the kind of video you're doing. I think if you're really trying to show product, you generally want that to be higher quality. But if that's maybe outside of your budget or outside of your wheelhouse, then it doesn't have to be. I tell clients all the time that, guys, we've got, what do you have, an iPhone 17 in your pocket?
Yeah.
That's like a supercomputer with a killer camera.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not going to totally destroy you or your brand to pull out your phone and start recording. And a lot of the time, it kind of helps to ease you into it, right? If you start by doing like just some iPhone videography, getting your products, showcased in some way visually online, start doing some of those just talking head videos of you explaining different cabinet types, different aesthetics, different vibes, whatever. Then you'll start to get more comfortable with the whole video process in general. And maybe at that point is when you might want to invest in some like higher scale videography. But generally when clients come to me about video, they're like, hey, do I need to go hire this like $10,000 package for blah, 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 blah. I'm like, maybe not. Let's start with something simple, right? We can help you like outline some storyboards of different video content, maybe some educational content and some product specific content. And then you can just pull out your iPhone and start recording, and we'll chop it up for you. Right. That's a lot easier. That's a much easier pill to swallow than like eating 10 grand and then you don't even like what you get at the end because you just didn't know what to do going into it. Right. So that would be generally my advice is, one, maybe look at the type of video that you're shooting. Two, if this is your first time doing video, dip your toe in the water with some like lower quality stuff on your phone, probably.
Yeah. Well, even if you just get like a gimbal for your phone, you can make those more highly produced videos without
100%.
spending like $10K.
100%.
All right. So finally, let's explore how the landscape is shifting and one thing that they have to do today to stay ahead. So what's the biggest shift you've seen in digital marketing for the kitchen industry heading into Q1?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think easy answer there, like hot topic is artificial intelligence and how that's impacting not only our industry, but just businesses on the whole, right? I think there are a lot of different tools that you can take advantage of. And even a lot of things that we're trying to implement on our various like tech platforms. Like even earlier, I think I mentioned like the AI calling is something that's getting better and better every day. That's something that we're looking at implementing for our clients. Super easy ones that have been working for years is like AI chats. Those are great just to, again, help like nurture leads if you don't have someone available 24/7 and someone is like, for whatever reason, looking at cabinets at midnight or whatever. These things happen. So I think the biggest thing is probably artificial intelligence and how that's kind of expanding capabilities, reach, ease of access for like starting to put together new content and whatnot. And what I always tell people is I kind of warn them, be careful when it comes to AI content, because if you're all in on AI content, you can get flagged and on these search engines. It might not be great, but it's just great. All these great tools are coming out and super awesome and easy to take advantage of. And I guess on the other side of that, not only are these tools things that we can use for our business, but they're things that are serving us in a sense to new customers. So one of the things that we're prioritizing a lot now is optimizing our content for AI, right? If someone is going to go on ChatGPT and search for like what sorts of cabinets they might like and begin to kind of workshop it there, we want that information that the AI platform that they're on is pulling to come from our site,
Right.
and link back to us and reference us, right? So yeah, I would say, to get back to the point of your question, AI, I think, is kind of the hot button topic, and the biggest thing that's changing the industry. Not to say that that's just now started in 26. Obviously, we're only 7 days in, but I think it's going to continue to be a sort of a hot button issue, and something that we should continue to look at as an industry.
Yeah, definitely. And then what do you think is the single most actionable takeaway that attendees will get from our session today?
Good question. Actionable takeaways. I have a few, so many. No, I mean, I guess if I had to pick one, I think the biggest thing is, the website and SEO stuff that I've sort of alluded to, which it basically goes back to just, one, if you don't have a website, get a website. Two, if you have a website and you're worried about it, or you feel like you've sort of, like I mentioned, sort of set it and forget it, and let it just do its thing, and you're beginning to see a decline, there's a reason for that. It's because it's not, when you're looking at optimizing for search engines and now optimizing for AI, it's not just to set it and forget it. It is something that you have to put continued work into. And I mean, that goes for all marketing channels, but especially if you want to spend less on like ad dollars, and invest more in like organic growth for your business. That's not just something that's like a one-time project and then you're good to go for forever. So keep that in mind. And if you don't have the bandwidth to handle those sorts of ongoing optimizations or audits and things like that, that's why there are companies like ours that can take that off your plate, that burden.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we've covered a lot of good things today. Thank you again, Hayden, for letting us pick your brain today.
Of course, happy to help as always. And if this information was helpful, I hope it was, then great. If you have other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always available. So you can feel free to message us on our socials or contact us on our website. It's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.